There we go.
Right. I mean, please call me Roger, because I haven't been called Mr. Cook since I was in trouble at school, which is a lot.
Okay.
Okay, Roger. Right, so let's start anyway and see how we get on then. So apologies for absence, Emma?
I've had apologies from Councillor Fuller, and that was all. I did have apologies from Peter for the previous meeting, but not this one. So I don't know where he is, but that's all.
Okay then. All right.
Apologies, apologise.
And apologies for being late.
Not accepted.
And I suppose there's a standing apology from Councillor Sparks, isn't there?
Yes, there is. Okay, we're happy to accept those apologies then.
Yeah, sorry, I think Val is on her way. She was
Okay.
at this meeting, but I don't know what's quite happened.
All right. Declarations of interest. Got a busy agenda. I couldn't see anything on there for myself, but anybody else got anything?
No.
No.
So,
So we've got two previous meetings to cover. One I attended and one I didn't. So the first one is for the rather long meeting that we had on the 15th of September. Is anybody that was present happy to propose those?
Yeah, I'll propose them. Happy.
Okay, thank you. And Jerry seconded them?
Yeah, I second them. Yeah.
Thank you. So let me just sign those. Oh, all those in favour? Okay. Thank you. Right, and then the second one was the meeting that I joined after you'd finished. And I still apologise. So that was on the 1st of October, purely to talk about the ban and the presentation reference to the footpaths. So we've got somebody who was present that's happy to propose those.
Yeah,
Jerry. And a seconder. Okay, Clive. Okay, Clive, right. And all those that were present in favour? Yeah, fine, thanks. So Emma, you need, well, Jerry, could you sign a copy and get them back to Emma?
I can do, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Right, now then, public participation. So it's not Mr. Cook here, it's Roger.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Roger. I think we've seen your notes and sort of understand what the situation is. Go on, Emma.
Can I just say that Cameron has just also arrived at the meeting.
Okay. Oh, hello, Cameron. Yeah. So we'll do Roger first, talking very much about the traffic on the South Bridge.
Okay. First of all, I completely appreciate the need for South Bridge to be open to take some of the strain off North Street and the North Bridge. Which I fully support. The issue I have is that coming into South Bridge, there is no signage which confirms the 18-ton limit. There is going outbound along Barnwell Road, but not along, not coming from the A605 into Oundle. So there is a sign not present there. My concern is that from sort of 4 AM and possibly a little bit earlier, there's a lot of lorries travelling along that road. For example, we have the Waitrose Lorries and the Lenham's lorries, which also deliver to Waitrose. I'm a big fan of Waitrose. I think it's a great introduction to the town. But for example, instead of turning right out of Waitrose and straight onto the 605, they come through a 7.5 ton limit up North Street, West Street, and down Mill Road. The reason why that's been brought to my attention is the fact that I'm woken up at 4 o'clock every morning by my house in Mill Road shaking. The roof, the walls, there's very little traffic around, so they tend to go quite quickly. There's also, from people that I know in Benefield Road, there's a lot of people with HDVs well over the 18-ton limit at 4 a.m. in the morning. I'd love to know where they are delivering, loading and unloading at 4 a.m. in the morning, bearing in mind there's only about 3 businesses out on the Barnwell Road.
Yeah. So Jerry, do you...
I was just going to ask, whether do you feel this has changed since the Northbridge closure and then the Northbridge reopening? So in other words, was it not happening before the Northbridge was closed? And is it?
Yeah, I mean, Jerry, yeah, you're absolutely right. But then that may coincide with the fact that the bollards have been removed.
What I'm trying to get to is it a change of behaviour from before the closures to after? So are we talking about the fact that lorries have changed their behaviour from before the Northbridge was closed?
That's difficult because obviously we had the bollards in place on South Bridge.
Okay, yeah.
So they kind of coincide at the same thing. So I couldn't give you an honest.
But the bollards were removed on South Bridge quite a long time before the Northbridge was restricted.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. Yeah, so it probably has changed. Now I fully appreciate that we have to get deliveries into the town. I have absolutely no objection to that. Okay, Waitrose could take a different route, so they don't have to go through the conservation area. They could turn right out of Waitrose, or they could come off the 605 into Waitrose without going through a set, without going up North Street, West Street, Mill Road. And they are 2 of the heavy goods vehicles which cause a great deal of shaking to the houses in Mill Road. And I guess they also do to North Street and West Street as well. But I do fully appreciate the need for heavy goods vehicles to come into our town. First thing in the morning when there's not much traffic around, they tend to drive a lot quicker, which causes a lot more shaking. I'm just concerned as to the damage that it's causing throughout our town. I'm also concerned about the damage that it's creating to South Bridge. I know it's been reinforced, but if you happen to be walking across South Bridge when these lorries come through, there's a great deal of shaking which must be causing damage to, basically by English heritage, they say it's an ancient monument. So I'm just concerned as to whether it's always necessary for the lorries to go through this route. Now, there's a number of people who live in Barnwell Road who've kind of said that there's a lot of traffic coming along Barnwell Road, coming straight down Mill Road, straight across South Bridge and out to 605. Now, I'm not kind of pushing this to the council. It's really what can people like myself do to restrict this type of activity. Waitrose should not still be coming through the centre of our town.
No. So look, we haven't got it down as a discussion item on the agenda tonight. We're very interested in what you tell us. I am pretty sure that the highways people have not put the correct road signs on the 605 at the moment. I believe the one that tells the heavy goods vehicles not to use Northbridge is still there as you come from Peterborough. So what I feel that we can do in the short term is ask highways, for a date when they're going to get the road signage corrected, including the 18-ton restriction on Southbridge. And the 18-ton needs to be both at the far end of that road, you know, as it comes off the 605, and at the bridge itself.
Yes, yeah, I absolutely agree. I just think that we are becoming a little bit of a rat run from Corby to the A605.
Yeah. So we can certainly do that. And the other thing I feel that we can do is a note to the larger traders in Oundle, you know, that have the trucks above 18 tons, and ask them to make their drivers aware. So that will be Waitrose and the co-op.
Yeah, that would be absolutely perfect.
Okay. So we can't do anything more than an informal discussion here, but certainly we take that on board.
Yeah, I mean, I do fully appreciate the need for there to be some heavy goods vehicles coming into.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the South Bridge is a very, very beautiful bridge.
Yes. Yep.
It's an ancient monument, and I don't want it to detract from people coming to the town because they find that there's heavy goods vehicles going across that.
All right. Yeah.
Purely to get to the A605.
Okay, so let us do this then. Sorry, Jerry, you wanted to say something?
It's all right, Tony, carry on.
Okay, right. Thank you, Roger. I sort of appreciate the bringing this to us. We did have a discussion about it, but without your input, it's much better listening to people that are residents there. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Right, hey, moving on then, the next one we've got is Cameron here. Thank you, Cameron.
Hi. Just really, it's the first thing really is just to say thank you so much to you, the council, for our grant that we got from you for goals in May, June 2019. They were set up pretty much straight away on our second pitch, and we used all the way through lockdown. As soon as anyone could get out, I think they were down there using them. They used pretty much all the way through there and all the way through the summer. We were using them for league matches last season, and they've just been a real kind of boon to the town and to the people that go down and use the football pitch there. We have so many different people coming in and using it, and I just recently we've got more goals for our under 10s and our under 7s, and just to use up the final bit of money that we were kind of saving to use. And it's just really a big thank you to all of you for your support in that. And I just felt that it was we invited Tom Pursglove to come and have a look around, and I've been talking to him about our plans for development, and I thought it was a perfect opportunity to have him and Tony come down and have a look at the club and give you a bit of an idea about where we're coming from and what our plans are for the future. And Emma and Tony mentioned that it might be possible for me to just have a few words to just express our thanks and give you a bit of background on the club, really, so that you know where we are and what the plans are for the future. So just to kind of give you a bit of a background, Oundle Town Football Club was started in 1883 in Oundle. So we're one of the oldest clubs in Northamptonshire. The juniors started in 1979, and originally they were two very separate kind of entities. For a long time we were kind of negotiating with Oundle School for a kind of some ground to call our own that we could actually develop, because until you get a lease, it's very hard to get any kind of grant funding. And in May 2015, we through negotiations with Oundle School more than anything, we joined the two clubs together and became kind of one entity. And that meant that we could start negotiations for a lease with Oundle School, which from September 2015, it was quite a long drawn out process, as I think things are with entities that have been around a long time. And by 2018, we had a lease. We'd got a license agreement for the South Road, but we couldn't actually get any grant funding through that. And then we got the lease for the Station Road land and the field behind it, and also the field behind Waitrose. So there's a huge amount of space there we've got. But obviously, since the water board sold the land beyond the first team pitch to some farmers, the playing fields which were there, which was a football pitch and cricket pitches, was kind of used for cattle mostly. And we often had problems with the cattle getting onto the pitch during games, which was a bit of a struggle. So since we joined together and since we got the lease, we took the fence down and started developing the land. And now we've got 7v7 pitches and 5v5 pitches and another kind of second pitch that's allowed us to get on Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings, we kind of fill the place. We've got about 300 families involved with the club. And it was very much, in the past, it's been very much a kind of men's football club. But since the juniors kind of joined together, it's changed and we're kind of a far more family-based club. In fact, our first team manager started with the juniors when he was under 9s and our under 18s manager when he was under 7s. So there's a kind of whole throughput, and lots of the players that come into the under 16s and under 18s have been playing with the club since they were in under 7s. So it's kind of, we've got this kind of football pathway as it's called, where people are coming through in Oundle, staying in Oundle, and then playing for the main team as well. So that's kind of where we are, and the direction we're going in is to try and do something really special. We're looking to improve our clubhouse and to develop our clubhouse into we've got negotiations with the Football Foundation, one of the main grant funding bodies for football, and they are we've been talking to them about a £1 million project where we develop a new big clubhouse which we can use for functions and for other meetings within the town, and develop the pitches so that they're of a standard that will bring in other people to kind of use them. So that's kind of for the future. Our temporary kind of barriers on the way to that are that we're very, very underfunded as regards grounds equipment, and we've got a huge area to look after. At the moment, we've got a 1952 Massey Ferguson tractor and 1970s grass cutters, and obviously this is the kind of area we're trying to develop. So over the summer, I've been putting in planning applications to the ENC, and the idea is that we're trying to get lockable containers around the back of Waitrose. That means that we can get a grant, 75% grant, which will allow us to buy modern equipment and modern grounds equipment that we can then kind of set up and have lockable away. And it's been a bit of a difficult negotiation because through lockdown, the planning department has kind of split up a bit, and obviously they've all been working from home. And it's been quite a long negotiation to try and get to the stage where we can get planning through them. The other problem that we've had is with the rain and the weather. There's a real problem because the drain that goes underneath Waitrose, there's half of Oundle comes down on one drain and half of Oundle comes down the other drain, and it's a storm drain. So basically, there's a ditch that goes down, and then another East Anglia water drain that goes down to the river. And we're having real problems with that because when it rains, our pitches aren't flooded, but when there's a storm, all of that water comes down, and there's a manhole cover just by the corner of Waitrose at the back where it got blown off, and there was a huge amount of quite messy problematic water that had quite a lot of sewage in and that type of thing that was kind of spilling over our pitches. So we're kind of looking at ways to kind of find out exactly whose responsibility that drain is, and then be able to kind of move forward and improve the kind of pitches, and so that we don't get that kind of problem in the future. But really what we're kind of about is we are a family club that we're trying to develop and create a kind of a hub for football within Oundle for the future. So it's just really to say thank you so much for helping us so far, and we look forward to kind of working with you all in the future to try and move things forward. And as soon as we get any kind of movement on any of that, just wanted to kind of let you know that that's where we are and that's the direction we're going.
Well, Cameron, thank you for the update. I mean, it was good for me to see you the other week, and I think the fellow councillors appreciate that. Clive, you want to say something?
Yeah, just a quick question, Cameron. It's great to see you, and it's great that the club is thriving. Just one question: do you envisage in the future? Do you envisage it getting big enough to have stands, for example, or how are you going to mitigate the parking problem if you get really big, which is obviously what you want it to have, and then where's everyone going to park, and where's everyone? How do you see it? How do you see that?
It's an excellent question, and the kind of plans that we're looking at currently on a Saturday morning, we park on the grass. So we've got a large area of our ground which is so uneven that we can't really turn it into pitches. So it's by the wall opposite Picarthy around there, and so we've got plenty of space there for car parking, and that's where I would envisage the clubhouse, the new clubhouse would go, and there's a kind of requirement for parking there that would be for kind of adequate for that kind of thing. As regards stands and that type of thing, getting really big, I imagine that would mean moving to another location. And there are kind of various things that I've been thinking about in the past for that kind of thing. But I think short term we'd be looking at using that Station Road site really, and making
we look forward to that, and certainly look forward to having your clubhouse replaced.
Yes, definitely.
Right. Thank you very much, Cameron.
Thank you so much.
So, apologies for being fairly brief, but we've got a big agenda tonight.
No
so
problem. I saw the agenda, so I quite understand. But thank you so much for listening to me.
Very soon.
Okay. Peter.
Can I just make apologies? I just couldn't get on. I don't know what happened. I just could not get connected.
You and the rest of us.
Oh, was it all like that? Oh, please.
All right then.
But it wasn't just me then.
No. So Cameron and Roger, you're quite welcome to stay if you want, and no insult if you want to go. So no problems. Right. Moving on then. So consideration of requests from interested parties. Pardon the input we've had there. There's nothing else, is there, Emma? Okay, I've got that. Even with your muted microphone.
Yeah. No, there isn't.
Right.
No.
Right. Moving on then, reports. I don't have a mayor's report this month. There's been a fair amount going on, but I haven't got around to writing it up. District councillors' reports. I haven't seen anything from the district council.
I haven't had anything this time.
But that, I'm quite aware that doesn't mean there's nothing going on. I've seen various bits that Phil Stern especially has been involved in. And I did think I had something from Jake Bowles this morning, but it turned out to be that hacker again.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a load of those. I'm getting good at rejecting them now. Right, town matters then. Update the reference the electric parking. So I did read the report, which was almost like a standard letter they sent back to us. It was not very helpful at all.
I think the main point on that is that we need to make sure we get our objections into parking restrictions during the day when if they're going to. It sounds like they may carry on doing what they want to do, but if they put charging points in, let's make sure there's no parking restrictions during the day for them.
Yeah. Sorry, Emma.
Yeah, I keep going on and having a look to see when they put the notice on their website for consultation. I think it's called. Is it called a TRO?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it so far, but I've just got to keep an eye on it because they don't automatically circulate it everywhere. We might have to go and having a look.
But just for clarity on what you were saying there, Jerry, are you meaning that it should not be exclusive for electric cars during the day?
Their default position will be that it's only for electric car parking 24/7. And that's ridiculous because any way you can charge an electric car on one of those points is to leave it overnight. You can't get a sensible charge in 2 hours or whatever. So I think if they're going to insist on putting them in, I think if they're restricted to electric cars from say 7 p.m. till 7 a.m., then yes, people can use them to charge electric cars, but they won't then restrict the parking when it's needed during the day, because there's no problem with parking there after 7 p.m. There's loads of room. It's during the day when people want to go shopping.
Yeah, Ian.
Just 2 points, I suppose. One is that the new road location still seems mad, with the narrowness and the pavements, etc.
It's new street. It's new street, not
Sorry, I should know that by now. And I sent an article around, I think last week, the week before. There's lots of complaints in Northampton and other places as well about where they're putting them for exactly the point Jerry made.
Yeah.
And just the second point is, I saw on the clerk's report someone saying the council should put charging points in. We've looked at putting one in the co-op car park, but the co-op aren't that keen. They're looking at putting one in, and there's one at the sports centre now, so they are en route.
Yeah,
We've
sure.
Waitrose passed, and they don't want to now. So,
All right, Val. You need to unmute your microphone, Val, because the lip reading skills are limited.
It's muted me. Regarding the points that they want to put in, and the fact that, as you've said, that it'll take 24 hours or 12 hours at least to do a charge, it's just asking people like the shopkeepers, who are bad enough about parking their cars here all day in places where they shouldn't. It's going to be hopeless. We'll never get a turnover of the spaces. Don't use it as a day's parking place.
The reality is that any EV owner will not. Well, no one's going to buy an EV and then intend to charge it up over, on a public charging point. You're only going to have an EV if you can charge it up at a sensible cost. And they're going to be too expensive for people to charge anyway. So they're going to be just not going to be used.
Okay, so we've got the opportunity when these TROs come out, to put the objections in. But purely on his own document there, he said that for residents that didn't have off-road parking, well, there aren't any residents on New Street with that don't have off-road parking, and that other one on South Road again, the residents down there all have off-road parking. So the locations for them would be North Street and possibly East Road. Is more logical. But we'll wait for the TROs. Clive, do you want to come in?
Just very, very quickly on this one. I mean, it does raise the point that they're going to have some level of enforcement. I mean, if they set it up and people don't park there without using the electric points, who's going to enforce the?
Good point.
So if it means there's a traffic warden solely for that, then we might as well use the traffic warden for every other traffic violation that's happening around the town at the same time.
Yes, okay, Clive. Yeah. So I think the only other thing that we possibly needed to do was suggest to them where we think was a more sensible location. So if any ideas, fall them to Emma.
Yeah.
I think David Wood from Transition Oundle, I think he came up with a few areas. But it just seems as if at the moment they're going to do these, and if there may be a second phase, so we may be able to have a bit more of a conversation then. But if we've got areas where we particularly think, like maybe in our car parks, we might want to put some in, then that will be down to us to do.
Yeah, all right. Right. With Northampton Highways to improve the area around the War Memorial. This was following on from Ian's earlier conversations about it, making it a more place to sit and reflect. Ian, do you want to lead this?
Yeah, I just it's a very simple one to try and further an idea. When I was down there in the summer or whenever it was, the British Legion, etc. The issue of the memorial basically being a roundabout came up, and the fact that vans park in front of it and round the side of it, etc. I was on a 2-hour Historic England webinar today about this, and we talked about roundabouts and issues with traffic, and they said the main aim is to try and protect it. And the idea that came out from this chat in August was, if you imagine the present War Memorial roundabout being as it is, and on the pictures of when it's opened in 1920, there's a little stage to the north of it which sort of forms like a protective bubble almost around it. And it just came out the idea that one of the reasons people want to go and sit there is it's in the centre of the town. They can look at the town nicely from it. They might want to look at the War Memorial. If there was a little bubble there that stopped people parking but had a bike rack maybe and a seat, it would protect the memorial and make things better all round. So it's just whether we could approach Northants Highways, get their opinion, because obviously they're in charge of that. If they say it's interesting, let's put forward a proposal, we could consider it. If they say no, then
Yeah,
no.
okay. Val?
Can I just ask, Ian, are you proposing, would people be sitting on it? How would we stop people in the bubbles from picnicking on the War Memorial?
Well, it would be provided. It will be provided.
Many people have approached me and they're absolutely horrified at the idea of people using it as a place to sit and have a drink or a picnic.
Yeah, and the reason we came up with for why they were sitting on and around the memorial is that there's nowhere else in that area. So if we provided a protective area to the north of it, maybe 10, 12 feet to the north, and put a seat there, they could sit and look at the memorial and look at the area around it, and then they wouldn't be needing to sit on the memorial. So it would actually protect it.
Right. So Malcolm?
I don't know what Highways would say about that, you know, having a sitting area in the middle of the road or a bike rack.
Yeah. So let's, what I'd like to do is, Ian, could you sketch something out for us? You know, because I think if we could actually see it, you know, and it doesn't mean, you know, a fancy three-dimensional drawing or anything, but just, you know, the area that is being considered.
Yeah.
You know, and certainly it's in line with the modern thinking on town centres, where you mix, you know, pedestrian and vehicle movement, because it actually slows down the vehicle movement. But get something sketched down that we can have a, you know, circulate it before our next meeting.
Just safety will be an issue. That's all. Just make sure it's safe. Make sure it's safe.
I mean, I can either do a quick sketch now if I can share my screen, or all I'm asking permission to do is to get permission to ask Highways, and maybe.
Well, what I'd like to do is you know, for all of us, you know, to allow Ian to carry on with this, you know, and get something sketched out, start the conversation with Highways, you know, and let's take it through. It's not until something comes back do we need a council decision on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I've got Clive and then Jerry.
It falls in, that plan falls in with what we were already thinking about when we were doing the HAS centre thing anyway, which Jerry and I were involved with, where we're making that whole area pedestrianised or semi-pedestrianised.
Right.
So it fits in. So it's not a, you know, we're not asking for something outlandish. It's actually, you know, we were actually going in that direction anyway, which is great.
Yeah. Jerry?
Clive just said what I was going to say, which is, you know, it fits in, and I can't see any reason at all why you shouldn't at least start having the conversations with NCC, because, you know, if they put the kibosh on it, then fine, fair enough, nothing lost. But, you know, we better go.
Peter?
I think what you've got to think about is that if you're going to do one of those schemes, you'd get rid of all the paths. Because that's the way it works elsewhere. You don't have actually physical paths. You don't have curbs. You have the whole road for pedestrians and vehicles, but the vehicles must travel at a reasonable rate. At the moment in Oundle, although we're supposed to have a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, I am probably one or two of the members here are the only people that actually ever do a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Everybody else chases through the town at 30 and 40 mile an hour. So the only way to do that is to have a proper pedestrianised vehicle way with no curbs, no paths.
Yeah. So let's do this as the beginning, and then we've got the vision for the future. And as Jerry said, it was part of that HAS scheme that we had, was to totally change the town centre. But Ian, I think you can take it from here that you've got the blessing of everybody to get on with that.
Thank you very much.
Right, to receive the clerk's report. What a busy girl you've been. All right, so we've seen Emma's report. I mean, she's been to been to more meetings than the rest of us have been for the rest of the whole year. But all right. Any particular point that isn't covered in the agenda, Emma, that you want to pull out
I
of
don't
that?
think so. No. No.
And from the rest of you, is any questions back to Emma? I say it is a very busy month we've had there, or Emma's had. Right. All right.
Oh, sorry. Just one quick question. On the crime report at the bottom, there's been lots of talk about the apparent knife attack down by Co-op last week, the week before, and then also attacks in Waitrose, but the police haven't been very involved. Have we heard anything from the police about either of those?
Yeah, the person being held up with a knife and had their wallet and phone, whatever. We've handed over the CCTV for that.
Sure.
But I haven't heard anything from Waitrose because we obviously haven't got cameras down there. But yeah, they've been and collected the CCTV.
Okay. Thanks. So I know we've got Tim Butter back as our local PC, haven't we? So sort of all face come back to the. I don't know whether we've come back on good behaviour or bad behaviour, but I think we're pleased to have him back. You know, he's quite a character. You know, also just while we're on that point, I've asked David Fuller asked if he could be the representation from Oundle Town Council on the JAG, the police committee. And so he will take over from me on the JAG committee. We just missed the JAG dates, you know, with our biggest issues, whereas this type of crime would have become the biggest issue, but we've definitely put that into Tim and Co. Right, so the next one is volunteer action lease. So I think the discussion was fairly self-explanatory. They'd like a 3-year get out clause. I think is possibly the only difference in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Peter.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I'm not very happy with having 2 new leases put on the agenda when further down and much later there's a discussion about selling Fletton House. It seems to me that if we give those leases now, then why bother to have a discussion about selling Fletton House? Because we're not going to be able to do it. So I can't honestly believe that those 2 things were put in before the discussion about selling Fletton House. I think it's just bunkum. I mean, that, quite frankly, is what's the point in me actually talking about it?
Well, I did. Yeah. Well, my view on that, Peter, at the moment is that the sale of Fletton House would be a very big issue that we would take some time to process.
I've been asking for this for weeks.
Yeah, I know you have.
You know, and now you're coming up with 2 leases, which quite frankly mean that whatever happens, it's going to just get pushed to one side and nobody's going to take any notice. So what's the point in actually ever bothering to do anything?
Well, the lease is for a piece of space, isn't it? These guys want, and if we're not going to be in Fletton House, we can provide space elsewhere. You know, so you know, my view is that that's what we would do. You know, if we decide that we wanted to sell Fletton House, then we would have to look after these leases.
I just think it's a waste of time putting that proposal on, putting that discussion on after we discuss the leases. I think it's a total waste of my time and anybody else's.
Yeah,
it's just a proposal, Peter. I think everyone needs to have the discussion.
Yeah, but we should do it before or after we've had the discussion about selling Fletton House. What's the point in having a discussion about selling Fletton House when we agree to do new leases to people in Fletton House? There is no point.
Can I just say, we already
I just don't
agreed
think
the
there's any
lease.
point.
We already agreed this lease at the meeting last month.
I don't remember that. But you see, that's because, again, we didn't have the discussion about selling Fletton House. I just think it's a waste of time.
Well, let us do the discussion the other way around then. Let's just park these for one moment and have the discussion about Fletton House sale. Yeah? Which item is that on?
It's on the estates.
estate. Okay. Okay, so with everybody else's agreement, and shout if you don't agree with it, I'd like to take that item 211203 and have the discussion about that first. You know, because of Peter's point there, that without this discussion, we can't do the other two. So Peter, for a moment, you have the chair.
Okay, well, look, the reason I wanted to put it in is it makes practical and financial sense to actually sell Fletton House. We would clear off all the debts we have as a council with the QVH loan and everything else. We could improve QVH, we could improve the courthouse facility. We'd still have good offices either in the courthouse or Fletton or QVH. We don't need Fletton House. We could sell it for a good figure and be viably stable if financially for a long period of time in the future. That's why I don't think it's worth keeping Fletton House. Now I know that goes against most people's thoughts, but to me as a businessman, if you see a lemon, you get rid of it if you don't want to drink the juice.
Just going around the table for input on that one. Val.
Peter, have you done the paperwork? Have you done a paper for this with all the costs and savings?
No. All I've done is actually asked if we should sell Fletton House. If you said to me, well, it's worth pursuing, then I would obviously do all that.
Well, until we've had a paper, we wouldn't know, would we?
No, well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not asking you to say yes tonight. What I'm saying is,
so we could all just say yes
think
or no
about
tonight.
it? Sorry?
You mean you want to just put a motion now and then we all vote on it now, yes or no?
Well, I think, you know, it's something that we should consider seriously. And if we do something like that, Val, then at least we could actually then put some paperwork together to find out exactly, A, how much Fletton House is worth, and I've been told it's worth quite a lot by an estate agent friend of mine.
So how much, for instance?
Well, they reckon we would get well in excess of £800,000.
I would think so.
Okay, Jerry, you wanted to say something?
All I was going to say is I think it's a distraction. I can't see that this is going to win support from many councils at all. And I'm sorry, but you know, I think Fletton House is the core of what we deliver in Oundle as a service to our population, and getting rid of it just seems bonkers to me. So my proposal would be we don't pursue it as it's a distraction.
Malcolm?
Well, I agree with Jerry, actually. I think we shouldn't get rid of it, but once COVID's out of the way, we've got to make better use of it.
Yeah. Anything from yourself, Clive?
Well, yeah, no, I agree completely with Jerry. I mean, what happens to the weddings? What happens to the registrars? What happens to everything else? All the potential that Fletton House has for us, and the amount of effort and community effort. It's not just single people that were paid. It was a whole community came together to put that building in the state it is. It became a focus of the community, and it is still a focus of the community. It's got a library, it's got the surgery, it's got the preschool, it's got everything that a town community needs in one place. If you start getting rid of it and this bit here, bit there, but you're back to where you are. Absolutely no from me.
And Ian?
I think just bouncing off Clive, when you look at a map of Oundle now, that hub area, the library, the surgery, Fletton House is almost dead central. So it will become increasingly important. But I think Peter's point about divesting ourselves of some estate makes some sense. I'd sell the courthouse personally, but that's a separate discussion point.
Okay, and sorry, I'm going to call you Anne then. David?
You can call me Anne if you like, but whether I'd answer to it is another matter. I mean, we moved into Fletton House for a reason. and that's because what it offered the council was better than what we had available to us in the courthouse. So apart from anything else, it seems a retrograde step to then sell off the courthouse and end up trying to move back in, sell off Fletton House and try to move back into the courthouse, simply reversing a process that we undertook not that long ago. Secondly, if quote unquote all that we could get for it would be around £800,000, bearing in mind A, what it costs to get it to that state in the first place, and B, what it delivers in terms of the facilities available to the council now and in the future. I'm afraid I don't agree with Peter on this occasion. I think that it does make sense to retain the building. It is a prime asset of this council, and I certainly would not support selling it off at this stage.
Certainly, from my own point of view, we have more property than we really need. Our problem child is possibly the QVH, and trying to find better use for the QVH. I know the Oundle festival people, have got some interest in it and doing more with it. But QVH is the problem child, and then Fletton House became an unfortunate sort of, because you can't get rid of that one, you can do something with this one. It is an asset that we've got that has a lot of value because of its car parking and its location. So I can certainly understand the reason and the thinking behind it. I think from this discussion, there isn't enough support even to do a feasibility study. And the problem we would need to do is a feasibility study, because there would be a whole load of capital costs, of looking at moving the council offices into one of the other properties. You wouldn't get in there without more spend. But if from what I see around the table here, there aren't going to be enough councillors to carry this motion through to the feasibility phase, then I think sadly we'll put it back on the back boiler. But always, keeping a track over the amount of money that we're currently paying for the loan on QVH.
Can I just come in there? Sorry.
Peter, yes, certainly.
Listen. Look, the idea of having this discussion to see is to see exactly where the councillors were. I accept that Fletton House is a hub, and I accept the fact that if councillors feel as they do, then it's a lost cause. I just felt that it was a cause worth bringing up because there is equity there. This council is spending far too much money. We can reduce our debts. We can make other places better for a council building. And I thought Fletton House is the obvious choice to go.
Yeah.
And I'm quite happy, that to accept what the other councillors say on this, because it was just my idea to see if we could actually get rid of one asset that we don't need. Yeah. And I don't think Fletton House is.
I appreciate, bringing up the controversial ones is sometimes.
But if somebody doesn't, then it's we're never going to move forward.
So appreciate that one then. So
there you go.
Yeah, I don't think we actually want to put this to a vote at the moment, because I think we've got.
No, I'm quite happy to say it's been defeated. I'm not trying to sort of get around it. All I'm saying is it's been defeated. That's fine. I don't mind that. But I just thought
so what we're saying,
two leases on the agenda before we actually talked about it was a bit stupid.
Yeah, you're quite right. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
Right. So Val and then Jerry.
Just to say that I don't want to sell it either. I just merely asked what I thought was the right questions about whether Peter had done a paper or not to have that view.
Okay.
No, I just put a few things out.
I do think we ought to formally vote or record that this has been discussed and rejected, because otherwise it could come up again. And if we don't, if we don't formally say we're not going to do it, then we could be brought up unnecessarily in the future. At least then, because is it 12 months, Emma, that we got then that we can't revisit it? You're on mute.
It's 6 months, Jerry, but I suspect that what's going to happen is that Peter's proposal is not going to attract a seconder, And as it won't have therefore been voted on, I suspect it would mean that technically it could be brought back within the 6 months, but you know, that's just an anomaly of the system.
Okay.
Mind you, we have got standing orders on the agenda for later, so maybe we should tweak them, but that's another story.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's revert back to the agenda where we were before then. So back on to the renewed lease then for the volunteer action people, you know, with this 3-year get out clause in it, which they say they're hardly unlikely to want to use. Rather than keep passing it backwards and forwards between lawyers, are we happy to accept it the way it is? David?
I'm happy to give them a break clause at 3 years. It's not that unusual. What actually concerned me slightly more was the bit down the bottom, but only because I'm not sure under the terms of the present lease whose responsibility decoration is, but I rather suspect it's probably the tenants. And if it is, I don't see why we should pay for it.
No.
Indeed, they're probably under an obligation to keep it in a good state of decorative repair. So if it isn't, they need to put it right.
Yeah, I think it was a good point. Yeah, I did read that bit, and you know, I know, you know, because like things with the car park, you know, we have to return the car park in the state it was when we received it. Yeah, Kerry.
And the only point I'd make in addition to that, though, is of course that they are a charity that we're supporting, and you know, giving them a bill for redecorating seems a bit.
Well, no, it's not giving them a bill. It's saying, you know, get a few volunteers in and put the paint on yourself. You know. So
well, okay.
Yeah, and Val.
I mean, I'm declaring an interest in this, but having been there, as was David, when these leases were all originally set up, you know, unlike the rest of you, that's not my understanding for this. Yes, for the Scouts and Guides, they're on a full repair lease. But that was quite unusual. But I don't think the volunteer action do have to do it, but I think you should check it up.
Yeah, I'm going to check it. My thought was that this must be a different lease, but I just needed to double check it.
Yeah, if you could do that, then Emma. But apart from that particular clause,
happy with the
we're happy
break clause.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, it says to receive it. Do we have to approve it?
Well, if you're happy with the break clause, then
we are.
Because we did approve that the lease would be renewed last month, but we said there would be no changes to the terms within the lease.
Yeah. Do we need a vote on that then?
If you vote on it.
I'll propose it then. You go second it. Yeah. So Malcolm seconded it, and all those in favour.
I better abstain, hadn't I? Because
okay. All right. Right, and then the renewed lease for the preschool. The issue here was about the rent, wasn't it, and maintaining that rent?
Yeah, their original lease had got a much higher rent, with it increasing each year. But then in 2018, the council agreed to reduce the rent to £5,000.
Yeah, David.
What strikes me is this. In effect, giving them yet another rent reduction, because if that's the way I read it, to £5,000.
No, we agreed that in 2018.
Sorry, are you saying we agreed the rent at 5,000 in 2018?
Yeah.
Or we agreed it at 5,600 in 2018? I may have misread it.
Sorry, yeah, that should be 5,600. Yeah.
So if we've already reduced it, fine. That's slightly different, because what I was going to suggest was keep it at the same level, and then if we want to fund them some back, I'd rather do that than reduce it again. But if we've already reduced it to that figure,
the current lease, I think, as it stands, is, I think it's 12,000. But we drastically.
I mean, we wanted it to, in a sense, break even from the point of view of the amount of space it took up. unfortunately, it's quite clear that there's no way that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Therefore, we have to make a decision whether we think it's an asset to the town for it to be there and for us to play our part in enabling it to be there. And I think the answer to that, as far as I'm concerned, is yes.
Yep.
I think, on the other hand, granting them a lease for 5 years without the possibility of a rent review in that period, considering we've reduced the rent so far and reduced it again 2 years ago, and now that would be 7 years on the trot at the same rent, that probably is excessive. And I'd be minded to put in provision for a rent review in 3 years. It doesn't mean we have to, but it means we at least would revisit it at that point.
Jerry?
Yeah, I agree with David. I think, you know, having the ability to review it, particularly, I mean, you know, in 3 years' time, there could be another 1,000 houses in there and lots more preschool kids. So it might be.
It will be.
Well, the concern I have is that, you know, we're running almost a commercial business here. We have several private nurseries around Oundle, you know, and, you know, it would be very hard for us as a council to sponsor one of them and not the others.
That's a good point.
You know, so we do have to be careful with what we're doing here. So it has to be a commercial rent that we're going for. And there's no, you know, as David suggested there, giving a grant back is an option rather than reducing the rent. So Emma, you know, I think it needs to be renewed with the ability to review the rent.
At 3 years.
Yes. Okay. And Val?
Well, it isn't quite the same as the private nurseries. It's the setup of this nursery is that it was the very first public nursery in the country, and there's a special history to it. And David, you'll know better than me. David.
Well, I seem to recall that what you say is right in terms of its history. Right. And I think that again was one of the reasons why the council wanted to get behind it, because it's part of the fabric of Oundle, in effect.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So, Emma, you okay with that one? Right. To receive an update on the Remembrance Day procedures and consider a request to take the warden on the 8th of November. So, I mean, they seem to have done a very thorough health and safety consideration there. Emma, who else was with Emma? Somebody else was.
Sorry, I've had a meeting with the Royal British Legion, the Oundle branch, and also our health and safety consultant, and we've talked through everything. I've also been on 2 or 3 different meetings with ENC, talking to the other town clerks what they're doing, and also speaking to the environmental health officer. And it seems doable to me.
The paperwork seems to be right on it. So the only question we're left with is the traffic warden. Jerry.
I was a bit concerned about how we would ensure that people don't turn up, because the Royal British Legion letter seemed to say, oh, of course, it's Oundle Town Council's problem to sort out the crowds if they all turn up in their hundreds, which they usually do. There's usually quite a big turnout. So also related to that, I guess, is streaming, and are we going to try and stream it somehow? That was my concerns, really.
Right, so we've got Ian, Emma, and then Clive.
Well, can Emma answer Jerry's point, and then I'll make
the whole of the UK is on a no public. It's come right through from government. They're not having anybody in London, so we've already rolled out one lot of information, and we'll keep rolling it out. So most people will know to pay their respects at home.
Okay, Ian.
It seems that the public attending is a real concern for me. And I know you said that, but the risk assessment says that people can turn up. So are we going to make it clear that they can't and shouldn't? And the second thing is the size of the British Legion contingent. It seems formidably large. When you look round within an hour of Oundle, lots of places have cancelled anything or just having a simple wreath laying. Grantham's limiting their entire thing to 39 people. For us to have 50 plus potentially a crowd just seems mad. Can we not just make it a wreath laying? I think that, and I've spoken to the contingent at the school, and they're surprised that there are flag parties involved, and even the kids involved. Aren't they?
Let Emma answer that, and then Clive.
Yeah, they've said about a cadet party from outdoor school. So I'm assuming, are you allowing that to happen, or?
Well, me talking to the contingent commander was the first he'd heard of it.
Right, okay, because that's one of the questions that I had, because I was under the understanding that there probably wouldn't be any. Now, I'm also a little bit concerned about the numbers, to be honest. I was really surprised when they said that they wanted 30 of the British attending, and they're not even wreath laying. We've only literally got about 5 or 6 people wreath laying. They're just there.
Can't we just have that?
Yeah, we could say,
Wreath laying only.
But yeah, if you want it as just wreath laying, or you could say, right, we will have a reduction in the numbers.
Okay. Just go to Clive, and then we'll carry on with the conversation.
Just very quickly, my understanding, having a discussion with the CCF at the school, is that there's going to be a big school event on Chapel Lawns for this year, and Ian will presumably know more about it than me, but that was my understanding. And they're having the whole school, is it the whole school or in year groups, set out in blocks on Chapel Lawns? But my concern about goes back to the traffic warden thing, is if that is going to happen, I don't know, I'm just putting it out there, do you think parents will turn up and sit in their cars and watch from the roads? And how does that, are we going to have a sort of congestion of parents turning up if their kids are out on Chapel Lawns having a service on private grounds, which is what it's turning into?
Is that
I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
School one's planned in the morning, and it's what Andrew calls a drumhead ceremony. So and I think it's probably still under discussion. Some of the kids aren't very happy about being asked to do it.
Right. Okay.
But that will be in the morning only, and it will be on the far side of the chapel, so no one will be able to see it from.
Right. Okay. That answers my question. It was just
I didn't know about that.
If there was going to be more traffic because of a school event on their own private grounds, would that involve us with having to have a traffic warden?
Parents aren't allowed to the school at the moment.
Right.
So
Okay. Right.
Would somebody like to propose how we would like Emma to reply to the British Legion? Ian.
I feel really strongly that as soon as it's got an element of event about it, people will come and watch it. And if we have to be responsible for making sure they're in groups of 6 or below, if you get 50 groups of 6, that's 300 people. There's no requirement to wear masks. It just seems, we've just gone over 100 cases in East Northants today, 100 to 100,000. In 3 weeks' time, it just seems utter madness to bring 100 people together in the middle.
Emma, would you be able to reply to that? And maybe
Wouldn't be able to manage that at all. So,
no.
All I can do is ask, and we're going to live stream that the members of the public don't turn up. If they turn up, what we're going to have to do is just barrier the roads off so they can't even see it. So we'll push the barriers further down so people can't get anywhere near to see it.
We can't even marshal it, because you're asking marshals to come into
contact
to marshal it. So we're violating the whole thing in the first place. So even if we volunteered to marshal it, we can't marshal it. So
it's a very tricky situation, because obviously you don't want to say we can't do it, but it is difficult.
Right. I think we need to feed back that the view of the council is that it needs to be a much smaller event than they've proposed.
Yeah. I think that's what we need. Ian.
I think the fact that it's the centenary of the monument itself might be apparently an issue, but if we can't get together, if 30 people can't get together, 31 people can't get together for a funeral of a soldier, the centenary of the memorial itself doesn't seem to need 50 people. So a wreath laying, a short 5-10 minute thing, and then if everyone in town is asked to live stream it, and remember at home, that's just as fitting. Again, this was discussed on this webinar today, and they said, you know, it's people shouldn't get hung up with the idea that we're remembering in a certain way. It has to be the remembrance itself that's important.
Okay, Peter, and then just wrap it up.
Well, I would go back to just having the 5 wreath layers and possibly one person with the flag, and that's the only thing that I would say we should do, and we should make sure that everybody knows that. Put the signs up, put everything up, saying this is only a small presentation with no crowds allowed.
Okay, Emma.
Just on that, and I mean, I totally agree with everything you said. It's just the guidelines that have come out. This event is exempt from all minimum numbers or maximum numbers.
All right.
So,
well, Emma, if you can express the Oundle Town Council view that you've heard, and could I ask either Jerry or Ian if the British Legion want to discuss further, that either of you, just help out in supporting Emma.
Sure.
that I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
With pleasure.
The Calc AGM. Anything from those? Again, quite busy event.
Right, sorry, I don't know, whereabouts are we now? Sorry, are we
The Calc AGM.
Yeah, it was actually really good. There was about 100 and, I don't know, there was a hell of a lot of us.
Yeah, no.
Or more than 30.
Yeah, it went really well. Obviously, you've had the minutes, that they're the notes that have come from the meeting, and the 2 presentations were really good, which sort of goes on to that next agenda item.
Yeah, so let's move on to the next agenda item then, unless anybody's got anything from the first one on the well-being, the well-being working partnership.
It was you know what they're doing in Malton, and the links that they have with the social practitioner is good. And I was speaking to a clerk who clerks at Nassington. She's already spoken to the person that's for our area, because she's keen to try and get some links and do a partnership. Yes. And I just thought, our building being so close, we've got various different, I know we're limited with what clubs and activities are on, but eventually when they start up, it's ideal for people to be able to come over to this building, from the surgery.
So is there anything we need to do apart from a watching brief on this one at the moment?
Yeah, I just wanted you to, say yes, I can pursue it and see what comes from it.
Yeah, certainly. So I've got Peter, then Jerry.
Well, the only problem I see is that with this new Cambridge-based organisation that now runs the health centre in Oundle, it doesn't seem to me that the health centre in Oundle wants to do anything for the people of Oundle, because they're not sort of interested.
So there is, as you say, there is a reason for us to do this sort of thing then.
Sorry?
Yeah.
We're filling a gap.
Well, I think we have to, because the surgery in Oundle doesn't seem to want to do anything.
Right, Jerry?
No, I was just going to say that I can't see any reason at all why we shouldn't inquire whether the surgery is interested in working with us. But I mean, to Peter's point, really, if they're not interested, then there's not a lot we can do, is there? Because it's a two-way street, isn't it? They're not going to meet us halfway. Then there's nothing's going to happen.
No. So Emma, go the next stage with it.
Yeah. Okay.
How we go? Right. Thank you. Right. Our standing orders, which essentially allowed us to have Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Is that about it, Emma?
Yeah, we should have reviewed it in May, but we didn't have our annual meeting, so I've eventually got round to putting it on the agenda to review our standing orders anyway. Yeah. Thought we perhaps should just have something in there about the virtual meetings.
Yeah. So not wanting to make a meal of this item, are we happy with that? Just make the item in red.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Consider the development of an emergency plan.
We'd got one.
Well, I can't find anything. I know there's been a lot of flood work, but I couldn't find a copy of our current emergency plan, and I haven't. Obviously, we haven't reviewed it. Certainly not since I've been here. So I thought perhaps we should look at it.
Peter.
I thought David Fuller had it.
Yeah, that was my point.
That was the flood plan, but
Is that the flood plan?
But
yes,
isn't there something else attached to that flood plan for emergencies? I thought that was the whole point.
I'll speak to David then and see if he can help me.
all right then. And David, did you want to say anything?
Well, no, I was only going to say that I had a feeling that David Fuller's role had gone just beyond that of the flooding, and that there was, after all, they did that worked up thing there. They used Flatton House, didn't they, at some point?
They did a training day.
Yeah, that was a training session for. Yeah.
All right, and then.
But I think there might very well be something. I'd suggest we just defer this to the next meeting and have a chat with David in the meantime.
Yeah. Okay. And then the amended COVID-19 risk assessment.
Yeah, this
just brought that up to date.
Add in the track and trace.
Yeah.
What track and trace?
Yeah, exactly.
Flatton House track and trace that we do.
Oh, we've got one, have we?
Yeah, we take everybody's temperature who enters the building. All contractors, we have their contact.
I'm sorry, I thought you meant sort of the track and
No.
trace that the government.
All right, and then the amended
town council one.
Okay, thanks, Emma. And the amended first aid risk assessment.
Yeah, that's just to sort of make it, add the COVID.
That's in it. Right, thank you. So moving on to financial matters, the bank reconciliation and so on. This is all we talked about in the finance meeting. Anybody got anything else to add? So we need to approve that, do we?
Yes, please, yeah.
And I'll second it.
Propose it.
And all those in favour? Right, thank you. And then the payments for September. Anybody got any objections? Got a nice new van on there. I did notice the van had the VAT in it, but we do get the VAT back.
We get that back, yeah.
Yes, okay. All right then. So I'll propose that. You go seconder. Yep, so Peter seconded. All those in favour? Right, thank you. And then approve the quote to clear the ivy. I did look at the price of that, and I thought a bit of weed killer might be cheaper. But,
it's a very large area, and it's over a very big wall, and it's potentially damaging the wall, and it is our responsibility.
yeah, okay, so we've got Peter and then Jerry.
No, I was just going to ask if the wall was our responsibility, because I know some of those walls are not.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And then Jerry.
I was just going to ask if you had more than one quote. So it's quite a lot of money.
Yeah, this is our regular guy that we use for everything.
Yeah.
But I can get another quote if you like. I think once a year or so, it's worth getting another quote from somebody else just to see what they come in at.
Particularly as it's a big chunk of money, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of hourly rates, you know, the sort of, you know, it looks like a £10 an hour type job, you know, but that's an awful lot of hours work in £2,600. Ian, and then Peter.
Clive was first, I think.
Clive, sorry.
Just a very quick one about that. I mean, have we got a sort of an understanding with the guy that if the wall falls down when he's taking the ivy off it, it gets repaired? Because that's I've recently had that happen around here, where someone was ripping the ivy off of one of those old stone walls, and they weren't doing it efficiently. They were just pulling at it, and half the wall came round with them, and they ended up with a massive bill to rebuild one of those exactly the same stone walls. So it's
he's had a look at it, you know, with that in mind.
Right. Okay, that's all. Just the point.
Okay, so we got then Ian and Peter.
I need to declare an interest in that. I taught the contractor history a long time ago. long time ago. And secondly, he's very, very good, and he does all the stone ivy conflict work around the town and the school. So.
Okay, and that's a good point from both of you about using cheap contractors. Yeah. Okay, and then Peter.
Well, I was just going to say, obviously, if Ian taught him about history, he'll know about the history of that wall, so he should be able to keep
No,
it
it was
safe.
all 20th century.
And also, I don't know anybody that works for £10 an hour.
No, that's what I was thinking.
I mean, if you could find somebody, will you send them down to me?
All right. So look, it would be interesting to get another quote, but I think based on the sensitivity that it's just been highlighted there, we don't do it at this point. Yeah, we don't want to cheat the
that's
cheap
fine.
quote.
Yeah,
We just go on the structure, but for the future ones. Right, do we need to vote on that one then?
Yes, if you're happy to vote.
Yeah, so I'll propose it then. And seconded from Val, and all those in favour?
I'm allowed to.
That's not all in favour. So those against? Jerry's against it.
Yeah. I'm not massive axe to grind, but I would have liked to get another quote.
Yeah.
I'm in the same.
I thought that's what we were voting for.
Right. So look, just based on that, then Emma, could you get another quote?
Yeah.
So what are you saying? But you just voted on it, and you've just voted.
I thought we were voting for another quote.
Yeah. So look, let's go back again.
I'll get
then.
some more quotes.
Sorry, Emma.
Yeah. So can we, so long as Emma gets a quote less than the current quote, can we give Emma permission to proceed with it?
I'm quite happy to go with the original quote if she thinks that's the best one, but I just think we should just get a sense check, and also, not a cheap one, but a good one.
Yeah. All right then. So let's put the motion back on then. For Emma to proceed following the second quote. So I'll propose that Emma proceeds following the second quote. Need a second for that? Yeah. So Malcolm seconded it. All those in favour?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
So if the second one's more expensive,
Go with the first one.
only joking, I'll go with the other.
even if it's cheaper.
Sorry. We're trying to get this done in 2 hours.
Sorry.
I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
Right. Financial and General Purpose Committee minutes from the 13th of October, well, since most of us were there.
Yeah.
Right. They're received.
Yeah.
And the budget for 2021. Do we need to run through the conversation we had a week ago?
Yeah, I mean, quite a few, we've sort of brushed on it at the QVH. I mean, it was just a case of bringing it to full council, with, not necessarily needing to approve it tonight, because I think there was still a few things that we were going to look at with regards to QVH. And then obviously if anybody else thinks of anything, but it was just, bringing this off.
So unless anybody's got anything else they want to raise at the moment, I would just want to put this down as considered. But feel free if you want to say anything. No.
Probably just mention that we've decided to not have an increase.
Yes.
A percent.
We can record that.
For anybody who wasn't
in
there.
the minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Moving on to planning then, receive the minutes from the planning committee meeting of 6th of October.
Yeah, they've been circulated. Nothing, I think, particularly to draw anybody's attention to, unless anybody's got any queries.
Right. And they've received the update from the meeting with the ANC to discuss the tail end of the neighbourhood plan going into. I didn't quite understand some of the conversation there about what was it about the cycleway? Yeah, go on, Jerry.
Yeah, I mean, basically, they seem to. We put a load of our policies forward. They said pretty much all of them were covered effectively within their plan. The only one they thought they wanted a bit more detail on was the cycleways, and we provided them with the Sustrans report that gave chapter and verse about all the cycleways. So I've basically left it to them now to include as much or as little of that as they want in their local plan. They were talking to us about a design statement document, which they were sort of advocating that could be of value to the town. And my attitude and my comments to them were basically, you're going to struggle to find anyone in OTC or in the wider animal community who's going to want to spend a lot of time creating yet more documents for planning, given the history. So I hope it's out of step with what everyone else thinks, but that's where I feel certainly.
All right, David.
Well, of course, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, because a lot of work was put into drawing up a design statement. Mark Ben's put a lot of effort into it. There is a document. It was part of our neighbourhood plan in its widest sense, because part of that was saying that we wanted people to follow the design guide, as it were, that we'd prepared. And in fact, bearing in mind the next item on the agenda, where design is seemingly going to become potentially a rather more significant part of planning, I think that we should certainly make ENC aware of that document. They may feel that it requires some further work, but you know, it is a complete document.
Okay.
I think we should run with it.
Right. David, do you have easy access to it as such?
Whether I've got easy access to it or not, I don't know. But
I think it's on the web. It's on the website, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure it's about.
Okay, right.
Is there?
So Emma, could we send it off
I
to
can
them?
circulate it. Yeah, I think Jerry you did a bit of work on it, didn't you? Tidying it up.
I think, yeah, just literally typos and
Yeah.
tidying it up. Yeah.
So let's get it back to them. You know, taking David's point there, a lot of work has gone into it. You know, whether they take any notice of it, will. But at least we have had our input. Right, and then to consider Anvil Council response to the planning consultation and finalise approval for submission. Again, David, you will lead on this.
I've taken a bit of a liberty because I've gone somewhat further than perhaps the discussions themselves went, but I'm trying to reflect the discussions that we had within the planning committee meeting, and I circulated, admittedly, I think only as recently as Sunday, something to all councillors, which runs to, and help us, something like 6 pages.
Yeah, and there's a lot of work gone in there, David.
Yeah, there was a lot of work went into it. Whether I'd have started it if I'd realised quite how long I was going to end up spending on it. I'm conscious of the time. I'm conscious of the fact that if we start going through this on a line-by-line basis, we'll be here till midnight. It may be that councillors feel I've gone too far. It may be that they're happy with what's in there. The deadline is, I think it's the 29th of March, so we haven't got any more time. If the council is going to respond, we need basically to adopt a response tonight, whether it's this, whether it's a modified version of it or not.
I know that we could talk about this. We could talk about this forever, but you know, my feeling is we have a document there. I don't see anything, you know, that I'd say is dreadfully wrong. Therefore, I would go with the document. So we've got Val and then Peter.
I would agree totally. I think it was very good. I'm not sure which March you're referring to, David.
Yeah, he means October.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that March. Yeah. And Peter?
It's not a long time if it's next March.
I have to tell you, I haven't read it, but if David and everybody else is happy with it, I'm quite happy to see it.
All right. Yeah, so let's go with it as it is, because you know, I think there's a tremendous amount of work gone into it, David, and you know, we could go on forever editing things, but it tells the world what we want them to know.
Fine, thank you.
And
perhaps you could
very quickly just to say thank you to David for that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I certainly appreciate it.
And it does. I think for certainly for me, there were one or two little bits on it, but I think it was an amazing piece of work. And thank you for that.
Thanks, Emma. Will you sort that out?
Yeah, I'll submit that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, over to estates and to receive the estates report. Oh, well done, estates.
I haven't got a report. I haven't seen a report.
You've written a very good one.
Well, there you go.
Emperor's new clothes, isn't it? It's so fine, you just can't see it.
Honestly, I'm sorry, but I've not seen an estates report.
No, so
I can tell you about some estates that have happened, but you know, I haven't had a report on it.
You should have had it in your pack.
It's in the pack.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Oh, it's not working.
Oh.
Yeah. No,
I'll try and read it then.
Yeah, you didn't write it, but
No.
you know, I'm looking at it here. I can see it.
Oh,
yeah.
well, I'm pleased somebody else.
All right. So no, it's going through the bits and pieces of our estates and what's going on with them. Yeah,
Mhm.
like the back door at the preschool and so
Yeah.
on. Okay, so that's received. Thank you, Emma. And
Can I
is there anything in there you need us to approve?
No, no. And you have an estates meeting scheduled for next Tuesday. So Lease is currently working on the agenda for that.
Haven't we got a meeting on the 28th as well?
Yes.
I was going to ask about that in any other business. I'll talk to you.
Yeah, you've got that one booked for the 28th.
Yeah.
This is on the
Yeah.
27th.
Okay.
And then the Flatton House we've talked about. So the comms working party.
Is that me?
That's
Yeah,
you.
did you want to just repeat meeting on Monday?
Yeah, well, there was this new meeting. I've sent everyone an email. So it's just to report what happened. Lots of good ideas. I think we need to decide if we want to sort of formally work hand in hand with the business association on some shared resources, which seems eminently sensible.
Yes, it does.
We need to work out how the ticking stuff behind hand works about who pays for what, etc. But until we actually get a firm proposal, it's hard to work that out. But I think a new website, the Oundle Info, Love Oundle, some sort of thing like the Oswestry one I sent you maybe would be a good step forward, and a better presence on social media for Oundle as a whole. And the business association seemed quite keen and willing to go down the route of getting a local consultant on board to help drive that, which seems eminently sensible for a limited time, particularly if we're launching a new website. So I think that's really for sort of report mainly, and hopefully by the next full meeting we'll have something more concrete to come back on and make decisions. But it seems a matter of how we move it forward rather than whether we do or not. So it was really good.
Personally, I would like to see it in Oundle Town Council in a support role rather than the leadership role. And this
I think we're in a financial role.
Yeah, well, no, but just on that though, is because they can make an application for a grant from us, and even partway through the year. But I know just in terms of leadership, that their leadership is most impressive. They've got a lot of energy in there.
Dynamic.
So if we're supporting them, that's good. The other one, just before you get into the item about logo, there is a new advertiser magazine I noticed came through the door, I noticed, Peter, you got a full page ad in it yourself, so you must.
Yeah.
They seem to be covering an awful lot of stuff.
I know the publishers. I'm sort of friends with the owners, and I'm also friends with the son and all that sort of thing. But it is a much better publication than Oundle Advertiser, because it actually goes into more detailed local stories, etc., etc. And so I think it'll supplant the magazine that we go in.
So that was why we just need to watch this space with them. Ian?
The big benefit of the advertiser is it gets to every house, I think, and whatever you're talking about hasn't got to my house.
No, it's coming round. They're just sort of literally getting it round. It's like I don't get the Friday advertising until about Thursday, Friday at the end of the week. You know what I mean? So it does take, everything takes time to come round, but it is hitting all the parishes as well. It's gonna take in Warmington, Holbrook, Barnwell, Clapthorne, Cotterstock as well eventually. So it is starting to sort of go out to all those villages where, for instance,
it's interesting.
The village you used to. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's also in the sister of the Jigsaw magazine.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I've read.
Thrapston goes into.
Sorry, I was a bit confused. I thought you said advertiser, and we were talking about the advertiser. The other.
No, it's the new publication.
What's it called?
I can't. What's it called?
Love Oundle or something, isn't it?
Sorry?
Jerry's just gone to get a copy of it.
We can't advertise.
I've not seen it. That's all.
I've only had it. You see, I've only had it on computer.
Yeah.
I've not seen it.
But anyway,
It will come round next week.
just to be aware of it, and it might
Yeah.
change what we're doing.
It's not supposed to be actually delivered until November, so you've got an early copy.
Yeah, and it might, it's not so local as our current advertiser is in terms of us supporting local business. Right, so just moving on then into the logo. Yeah, there you go, Jerry. That's it.
What's it called? Oundle what? Live?
Oundle Life.
Oundle Life,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Don't flash my advert up, Jerry. I don't need it.
Emma.
Oh, just to say about this logo, we have the new website, the current logo that we had, the resolution was not
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
supposed to use, so we couldn't use it at all. So we came up with this, which I think looks quite good, and it was relatively cheap.
Very cheap.
Yes, but obviously, if you're happy with it, then we'll go with it. But it's
I think we could do what committees do worst is we could spend ages talking about alternatives to it. I think for the purpose, I'm personally happy to go with that one and move on. But any other inputs? We've got Ian and then Jerry, then Peter.
All I was going to say, it looks very good on the website, looks very sharp, and it's been tweaked a few times, and I've test marketed it with some people of different ages not far from me, and they all liked it. So
Jerry?
Really like it, much more professional than the old one. Yeah,
Peter?
I thought we'd go for something like the red kite, so I'm sort of...
All right. And that's what I meant about committees. What committees do worse is they talk about everything.
But we'll go with the new logo. I just thought, because the kite flies around here all the time, and I just thought that'd be a fantastic logo for Oundle.
David?
Val will remember how many hours was spent agonising about new logos.
Exactly.
Council, not all that many years ago. And it was all because of the slightly indistinct nature of the artwork from many years ago. But I suspect that we need to grasp the nettle, and I certainly don't want to make any kind of a fuss about it at this stage. I'm quite happy to go with the majority view and move on.
Yeah, and Val?
Well, just make a comment. I was thinking exactly what David was expressing there. We have spent hours and hours and hours. And the point about the old one is that it was a gift of the town originally, and it stood us in good stead, but it doesn't go with the modern methods of reproducing information, if you like.
No, you can't make an emoji out of it, so it's no good.
Better than the ones that we agonised. Sorry, I'm better than the ones that we agonised over, David. So let's go with it.
Okay, moving on then. Correspondence, employment law updates. Anybody got sleepless nights? I'm reading. Thank you. Q&A from Northamptonshire LGR. Emma, just help me. Is it Northamptonshire or Northamptonshire North that we're going to be in?
Northamptonshire.
It is Northamptonshire. Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. So the Q&A session there. Anybody got any?
I think I've already previously circulated this, but I thought I'd better do it officially.
Okay.
Agenda.
Right, and then matters arising, Peter.
Sorry?
David left too quickly then, didn't he? Peter, did you say you wanted to raise something else? I can't remember now.
Yes, sorry, yes, my apologies. Yeah, Christmas tree.
Yes, sir.
It's going up.
Yes, please.
On the Sunday after the week commencing where we start the lights. I think was it the 24th of November, Emma?
Let me just get my the lights switch on is on the 4th of December.
Right, so
the Sunday before the 29th.
That's the Sunday before on the 29th, the Christmas tree's going up. So any volunteers would be gratefully accepted. I'll fill in, anybody saying they want to go, I'll fill you in with an email of what time to get there.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that, but though, is it only 6 of us? That's the thing.
Well, to be honest, there's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6 people having to bring the tree in. We will be standing back, stopping the cars while they're putting it in. Because you remember last time, Clive, we had to sort of literally push the bloody thing up.
That's right. I mean, they are a family bubble anyway, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yeah. But the Saddlers are a family bundle as well, so there'll be 2 separate bundles there, plus another chap with the big lifter.
Yeah.
So lovely. Anybody
so
else?
So 3 or 4 others to sort of volunteer to stop the traffic.
Yeah. All right, I'll be there. So we've got Malcolm and then Ian.
I've got an issue about protocol, in that I think things have got very loose recently. You find that people are appointed themselves, or somebody has an idea that we should contact somebody or whatever, or be appointed to a committee. And I can give you examples. And it's not a council decision, it's individuals' decisions. I can, for example, Philip Amps was asked to liaise with OBA, which I'm supposed to be a representative, our representative. We see an email saying, I've been asked by Oundle Council. Well, he wasn't asked by Oundle Council. Somebody on the council had the idea of asking him, and that's what happened. They did. And there are other examples. For example, Peter, I'm very happy for you to chair that meeting on Wednesday. In fact, I'd rather you did it rather than anybody else. But it was done without asking other people in the working party or any of the councillors. Just suddenly, we got an appointed chairman. So I don't think that's the way we should be behaving.
Malcolm, I have to tell you, actually, Tony asked me to be chairman, so that's why I just took it on.
No, I'm not criticising you. I'm very happy for you to do, Peter, really. Right. And I'll give you whatever support I can. So,
okay.
Well, I was going to ask.
I think in the format, if any of us overstep the mark, please tell us.
I haven't noticed any of that. What was sorry to interrupt. What was Philip Amps saying he was doing?
We just said I've been asked by Oundle Town Council. Well,
what asked to do what?
This is about COVID or something. I don't know. It was okay. What he did, fine, but he wasn't.
But it might have been me asking him to do something. It might have been me asking him to do help us with.
Well, okay, I'll come up with something else.
His car park, but to me, that's not a decision.
We're supposed to have 2 representatives, one of which is Sue Oaks, who are representing our input to OBA, and it's been completely ignored. Other people have been talking to OBA directly. I don't see the point in me being there. Well, there's no point. I resigned from that issue, from that function. But it's just the way things have been done extremely loosely, I think. So,
yeah. Emma?
I've been working very closely with him, only because he's been helping us. He helped us with the markets.
I'm not criticising. I'm not criticising Philip Amps. I'm not criticising Peter. I'm not criticising anybody individually. I'm just saying that we have to be a little bit more circumspect about.
Yeah, so just taking on board your Malcolm's
point. Can I just answer
yeah.
that? Because the council had given me authority at the beginning of this lockdown to carry out what I needed to do.
Mm-hmm. I'm not criticising you.
No, Malcolm, please, bring these forward. When you do notice something, let us know, because I'm probably the worst culprit for this. I do things without realising somebody else was involved. So I apologise if I've done something like that. Sorry, who else was wanting to talk then? Was it Ian? Yeah, and then Jerry.
Mine, I hope, is simple. It's just to report that there's a project going on to the school that Clive is very aware of about tree planting. Pupils collected 300 acorns from a row of memorial oaks up on the playing fields, and there's a lot going to be planted around the 8th or 11th of November in a new memorial archway. On the back of it, 15, I think, are going to go to the football club for them to put something. 15 might go to the rugby club. There's some going to the primary school, Maxon Junior. We're donating some to the British Legion for them to distribute. So it's a nice little thing. It's a sort of centenary event. So there we are, and we've doing it sort of with Oundle Town Council nominal support to make it look all lovely and
Yeah,
so on.
yeah.
So there should be some nice PR, but there we are.
Right, so go Jerry and then Clive.
One of our neighbours, Tony, spoke to me about whether or not the town council could do more to encourage wildlife-friendly areas. So we mow quite a lot of grass, some of which perhaps could be left to go wild, wildflowers and all the rest of it. I mean, the lady in question was specifically talking about the area in front of your house at St Christopher's Drive, that green area, which is a nice big area, and some of it certainly could be, fenced off, not fenced off, but taped off and left to be more wildlife friendly. And I'm sure the same must apply in other areas around the town. And I'm not on the States, otherwise I'd have brought it up in the States. But if the States would like to consider that, I think that would be appreciated.
Yep. Okay. So I can't remember where we're going now. Clive, and then Val, and then Peter.
Just to add to Ian's thing as an extra to that, it's great today to have Cameron on from the football club, because that makes our life much easier, because we've got the backing of the town. And I think if we can, and backing onto Jerry as well, if we can start to if we can plant trees and we can keep wildflower corridors open throughout the seasons, then it makes our job with Transition Oundle very much easier as well. So there's lots and lots of PR things that go back to the Oundle Business Association as well. So if we keep this rolling along gently, and everything will link together, and our PR profile will grow.
Yes,
little simple initiatives that are happening, and I think we're actually getting there. That's little by little. Yeah. Little by little, we're getting there.
Yeah, thank you. And then Val and Peter.
This is only reporting back. Somebody phoned me yesterday from Hillside Road to say that there was a gang of armed police outside her house. There was obviously some kind of action going on. Does anybody know what it might have been?
No.
Because they were armed. She spoke to them.
No. Then Peter.
Yeah, sorry, this is more to Emma actually than anybody else. In regard to the 28th, have we got responses? And also, are we setting up, with those responses, are we setting up a Zoom meeting with the people that have responded?
You're muted.
You're muted, Emma.
Everybody's received the invite.
Yeah.
Zoom meeting. I haven't had a huge number of responses to say they're definitely coming.
Right.
But we've still got a little bit of time.
Okay.
But
have we got a sort of a Zoom thing to actually get them going on that meeting or not?
Yeah, they've all had the link.
All right, that's great. That's fantastic.
Devin.
That's it.
Well, if that's it, I thank you all for tolerating the pace that we've just been through this lot.
Good.
having screwed up last month so badly, I just had to do something better. All right. So thank you. Yeah, onward.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Again.